On this episode of In the Driver's Seat with Dubizzle, the Toyota Crown has finally returned to the United Arab Emirates after 20 years. There's a new Zenvo. Well, actually, is it a new Zenvo? Yes, there is a new Zenvo, and it's officially here as well. And Tesla has introduced a bunch of taxis. Interesting, right? And I have a new co-host after Fouad's remarks. All this and more on this episode of In the Driver's Seat with Dubizzle. So with all of that out the way, I'd like to introduce you to my special guest this week, Stephen. Another car fanatic. He loves Audis, so I replaced one German-loving car fanatic with another German-loving car fanatic.
I'm getting into my Volvos, thanks to you.
Are you?
I do include them in my daily search on Dubizzle.
And what have you found Volvo-related on Dubizzle?
I really like the XC, it's the 60.
Okay.
But realistically, the XC40 is kind of caught my eye, and that is around that 100,000 dirham mark. Makes kind of sense. There's one in, I think, in Arabian Ranches, got about 120,000 kilometers on it. Bit high on the mileage for what they're asking, and I haven't seen one in real life. It looks kind of small. It's in that mini SUV class, so I think the XC60 is the one I would choose, and I would go for that.
See, they're both fantastic cars, and like every episode, we managed to somehow talk about Volvo. The previous two episodes, it hasn't been me at all, but I found a way.
It's your influence. It's his influence. So, but Volvos are good, aren't they?
I mean, yeah, I swear by them. I've owned 3. I'm going to buy a 4th, probably buy a 5th after that too. Need to get to a wagon. But besides that, let's talk about the Toyota Crown, because they do have a wagon, but we're not getting it here.
If you look at hybrids, no one really. It's not combustion. It's not electric. It's two things put together. No one knows really what they're worth after you finish with them. This one has a 2.4 4-cylinder engine turbo,
Yeah.
which is fine. And with its hybrid powertrain, they claim, what is it, like 18 kilometers to the litre?
Yes.
Right? So just put that in comparison. I have a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo A3, and that does 24 kilometers to the litre. So why would you then buy a hybrid, which is worse significantly on economy, when the whole point of having a hybrid is that it's more efficient?
Well, it's interesting you say that. So the Toyota Crown might be less economical compared to your Audi. You've got to remember that the Toyota Crown has returned as a crossover sedan. Not a crossover SUV, a sedan, which makes things very interesting. They're claiming it's the first of its kind. I will deny that, because Volvo did an S60 cross-country, so that was technically the first crossover sedan.
Sorry. It's like an all-road thing, like you've got, like it's like a jacked up saloon wagon thing.
It's lifted off the ground.
Why?
Well, this is the thing. So the Toyota Crown is marketed towards a certain demographic. It's an older generation of people.
Okay, but they've all passed on now.
True.
It's either SUV or saloon, and soon it'll just be SUV.
This is true.
Ford stopped making the Focus, right? They stopped making the Focus. It is the Focus, the saloon one, right?
Yeah.
Or is that the hatchback?
No, it's the hatchback. The saloon is the Taurus.
The Taurus, and they do a smaller one as well. It was in James Bond ages ago.
Fiesta?
No, one above that. There's one above that.
Oh,
I nearly
this is
bought
like
one.
a European market.
Can't remember the name of it. But why would you then try and make a saloon with off-road? Is basically what he's saying. It can deal with bigger bumps and stuff, right?
It can, but it's very interesting what Toyota was saying when the car came out. Because it's targeted towards an older generation, it's actually easier for someone who is older and maybe less mobile to get in and out of the car.
Okay,
they don't have
I get
to
that.
hunch to get in. There's even handles on the back seats so they can grab onto and get into the back seats easily. It's, like you said, it's a hybrid. That's a hybrid of two different cars with a hybrid engine, hybridception basically.
So it's a hybrid between an SUV and a saloon. And it's a hybrid in terms of... Good luck with that.
Yes.
Honestly, good luck with that.
They've brought 2 cars into the UAE. We've got 2 versions, and one of them is starting at 199,000 dirhams. And then the other one is I want to say it's 225. I think it might be around that threshold there.
Is this in the sort of luxury? Is this on the upper end of what Toyota do before you get into into Lexus territory? Is
Yes.
it? Yeah.
This will sit above cars like the Camry and the Avalon.
It'd be interesting to see how it does, because 200,000 isn't chump change, and there's a lot you can buy there, and there's a lot you can buy used with like 10,000 kilometers on it. Had a look at the interior, which is what I consider a great deal, because you spend most of your time, if not all of it, sitting in it, and it looks like a puffed up Camry inside. And if you're getting to a new Camry RTA taxi, that's not a bad interior. They've even got like the fake baseball stitch across the dashboard and that curve coming down. It's not a bad car to own, the Camry, at all, design out or in. But I don't really think people want a more luxurious version of a Camry that gets worse mileage than a nice engine by itself, and is not an SUV, but is not a saloon, and is a hybrid as well, so we don't really know how much it's worth after you've finished with it after a couple of years.
Fair enough. I mean, hybrids are kind of a thing that's coming in. Obviously, electric cars are taking over everything. But let's move away from hybrids and let's go back to raw power. Zenvo has finally arrived in the UAE. So you probably remember was it the ST1 that debuted all those years back? Was it called the ST1?
Yeah, something along those lines. But I mean, I went through the press release stuff and had a look. So it's a track monster, huge whale tail. In fairness, it looks quite nice.
It does.
Right?
And
It looks like...
it's got that hypercar
Yeah.
styling. You know, it like you see it away from a mile, you could probably tell it's a Zenvo from that far off.
Yeah, but for me, I was like, is this a Lenovo? Is it a Zenvo? Is it a laptop? You know, from the beginning, I was confused with the name because it's just too reminiscent of an electronics company, right?
So, and the car itself gets a little bit more confusing well because I think it's called a TSR01.
Okay.
Why we just use, we should,
I don't-
it needs a proper name. And I
It's
think they
just
have one
bizarre.
that has a proper name. I don't want to get it wrong because I think it's the same name as it's very similar to a McLaren name.
But I think they're going to face the same problem that, to a certain degree, like Lotus have here, right? Like, most people from Europe and America know the pedigree of Lotus Racing, Colin Chapman, and his theory or his mandate that you don't want more power, you want to get rid of the weight, right? That's the whole point of Lotus. Get rid of the weight, use the power you have, you'll be fast in and out the corners and down the straights and whatnot.
But the most interesting thing for me anyway about the Zenvo is they've retained that aerodynamic spoiler. So when you go around the corners, the spoiler actually tilts with you to apply the downforce that you need. Very interesting. Obviously, very useful for the track. But I think daily driving, I don't think it's too that useful.
It's useless. I looked at it and thought, well, I've got millions parked, but how am I going to drive that to work and back or to the mall? So it's like a track weapon, basically,
Yes.
right? Are they going to do a road-going version? How can you make a road-going version?
No, I don't think you could.
But I think they're going to struggle because people are going to go, well, I've got 500,000, 1 million dirhams. My options are Porsche, Lamborghini, Maserati. If they really know about cars, they'll be looking at Lotus as well. But the thing is, going back to Lotus thing, they're not known for their pedigree here, so that people don't really know what they are, apart from if you're an extreme enthusiast. So coming back to this TRS10 something or other, Lenovo,
Chassis
Zenvo,
number, yeah.
yeah. How are you going to sit shoulder to shoulder with the other cars with that? Unless you go shattering a Nürburgring record, and then it's like, okay, well done. I'll park my money in a car that someone will come and buy off me for near enough what I paid for it in a couple of years' time.
And that's why you get yourself a Toyota Crown instead.
Buy the Toyota Crown. Yeah, go back to the Crown. Worse gas mileage than a gas car.
There is a new electric car in the market now from BYD that when you spell it out, it says build your dreams. And they recently brought out the Atto 3. That debuted a couple of weeks ago for the first time. It starts at 150,000 dirhams. Monthly repayments is 1,499 dirhams, which is incredibly low for an electric car. And the phone's ringing. Okay, that's that. Hello, Dubizzle Cars. How can we help you today? You're looking for financing for your car. Okay, that's great. We have very competitive rates from all our partners. You're looking for an electric car, are you? With electric cars, we can get you competitive rates. We can actually get you lower interest rates and faster processing time on any pre-owned electric car in the United Arab Emirates. Great. We'll book you an appointment for, what's time now? 2 o'clock? Great. We'll see you then. Thank you so much for calling Dubizzle Cars and have a great day.
Is that going to be someone that's going to be sitting in the mall on their phone charging their car, or do they have a charging point at home?
No, we need to get this thing disconnected. I don't know why it rings every episode. But going back to the BYD Atto 3, this is the latest electric car on the market. It's very affordable and we had the chance to drive it. I will be honest, I haven't driven an electric car fully to any full capacity. It was a very short drive that we did, But for me, the biggest thing were the features inside the car. Obviously, electric cars were a gimmick. And now we're starting to put the features inside that are very gimmicky, that are very interesting, unique, and it will really draw in a crowd. For example, the screen rotates from vertical to horizontal with a press of a button. As soon as you start the car, the screen turns. You've got strings in the door card on the passenger and driver side that if you pluck, sounds like a guitar. Well, a 3-string guitar should have more bass to it, though. I prefer the bass.
It's got, sorry, come again. It's got guitar strings in it.
Well, it's not really guitar strings. It's more like, you know, that cubby area that you can store things in your doors?
Yeah.
So that's kind of been removed and replaced with strings. So when you pluck them, if you're bored in traffic or anything like that, they actually make musical notes.
Oh, God, really?
Yes. Which is very, I find that quite interesting, actually.
God.
Stephen really doesn't like electric cars.
No, I think electric cars are great. They're all fast. So that rules out that argument. Everyone's as fast as everyone else. There's no interest there whatsoever. But they're kind of the cars you want to be driven in, right? I want to be driven home in one. I want to be picked up in one because they're so quiet, you know.
So this is something about the BYD as well. It was very quiet, and for me it's very unusual because I'm used to an ICE unit. I'm used to petrol. I'm used to an engine, a combustion engine. I'm used to that sound. So for me, it's a very different experience to drive the car because I can hear the guy talking to the right of me. I can hear the sound system and the AC blasting, but I don't hear their engine.
Yeah.
And for me, that is very surreal.
You could put like sounds on of engine noises.
You can. And
you could stream engine noises from YouTube while driving.
That's a really good idea. I wonder if there's a whole Spotify playlist of just engine noises that you can play. Talking of electric cars, there are now electric cars in the RTA taxi fleet. That's right, you'll probably spot Tesla Model 3s that are covered in beige paint with different roof colors. So you can check out what it's like to be in the back seat of an electric car today. So now we've come towards the end of the show, and this means that we found 2 cars that we like on Dubizzle. And I gave you the budget, as I did with Ford last time, of 100,000 or less.
Well, I found 2
Okay,
cars.
You can have just one though.
Can I not just have 2?
You know what? Fine. As you're a special guest,
2.
I'll give you 2.
So I found an Audi A8L. So that's the super long barge extended wheelbase executive car from 2003 in Burgundy.
Ooh, what a colour. Burgundy.
In Burgundy. And you should call this like money pit of the month, right? If you want a real money pit of a car, but something unique, then this one has the W12 6-litre engine in it, which they shoehorned into the Bentleys and so on and so forth and put turbochargers on it. But here it is in an Audi, complete with rear viewing DVD screens and technology from that era for 60,000 dirhams.
That's a pretty good deal, I would say. There's barely any on the road, and there are barely any in that condition as well.
I saw one that was rotting away behind Al Nabuda about 6-7 years ago, a white one. And they're just huge pieces of machinery. And no doubt, you know, once running correctly. And this chap has garaged this one, replaced all the cooling system. It doesn't have that many kilometers on it, so it sat still for a long time. And he does specify that the sludge in the cooling system couldn't even be cleaned. They had to replace the whole thing. And he uses it from time to time. But this is a car that you could jump in and drive all around the Emirates, pretty much as comfortable as a Range Rover because it's got air suspension, for 60,000 dirhams. The only thing is you need to use it regularly. Otherwise, if it sits still, it's going to cause you big bills, which is kind of ironic when you think about how cars work. So if you had space and you've just got money to play with, that would be a great car to own, you know? We're going out to dinner, let's take the W12.
So what's number 2 then?
Number 2 is a more realistic car. So I was looking at an XC60, but that doesn't come, you can't find any around the 100,000 dirham mark. So the XC40, there's one on there for about 103,000, 105,000.
Okay.
In Arabian ranches, got 126,000 kilometers on it. Bit high, to be honest, for that kind of money. But the market is the way the market is. And I think that's a good looking, is it classed as a mini SUV or a small SUV?
Maybe a compact SUV.
Compact SUV. Yeah. I'm sure it's only front wheel drive, no big deal. It's never going to go off road anyway. But for a nice little car to bounce around town. And it had black leather interior, which is a must for me in car interiors.
Really? The black interior gets really hot here in the summertime.
Well, I don't sit with my windows down and, you know, I have tinting, so that's fine. But this whole kind of obsession with beige, the amount of cars I find on Dubizzle that are great, and I'm like, yes, picture, yes, interior lottery, oh, it's beige, no. Can't do it.
That's the color that everyone loves here. So now my car of choice is, well, I want to say it's a unicorn because the dealer has it listed as a GCC spec. I sent it to a very good friend of mine who didn't even know these things existed. And I found a manual Chrysler Crossfire. One of, well, a very questionable decision by Chrysler to build one of these things. It is on the chassis of the SLK, Mercedes, but this thing is a real unicorn and they only want about 38,000 dirhams for it. This is a real, true gem. You won't find anything like this ever again. I'm amazed that one is here, and I'm amazed if it's true that it's a GCC spec, because this is a proper unicorn.
If you could take that gearbox out, no, I agree with you. It's like a one of one probably, but the Crossfire, really, it's just awful.
Listen, I have a taste for weird cars. Okay,
it's just
That's
awful, just awful from the beginning, awful from the end. If you could take that manual gearbox out and put it in an SLK, now you're talking.
We'll just rebody it. It's fine, but make sure it's a coupe though. All right, so now for our grand finale, the producers have kindly provided us with, I think, 6 cars. You guys said. Okay, so we've got an extra one here that we have to talk about. Now, we don't know any of them. Stephen hasn't even been given a heads up for his guest appearance in the show. So these are 6 cars that we're going to test our knowledge on. As you're the guest, I'm going to go first.
Here.
Let's see. Oh, I've got 2. I'm going to put one
Just
back.
hand me one, it's fine.
Okay, right, there you go. You can pick one, but I'll speak first. And it is a Lutetia V6 by Renault. Now, this must be some sort of concept car that was probably built somewhere in the 90s, and it was probably something really ridiculous. My knowledge on concept cars isn't the best, though.
No, I've got a Chevrolet panel. Do you know what that is?
I know what this is. So this was a panel
Okay.
van that...
You take that one.
Okay.
I'll go again. We're going to keep going until we
I
find
don't know
something.
what that one is there, but I will tell you...
You're not allowed to use cars before we were born, right? That should be like a thing.
Be hard for him.
The Vector W8.
Oh, why do I not get the cool ones every time? Okay, I get to get through this.
Is this the wagon W8 that we were talking about the other day?
So the Chevrolet HHR panel van, the HHR was Chevrolet's return to the sort of retro styling, the realms of the SSR and the Prowler from Chrysler. They built a van version of this. It was a SUV, but they built a van version.
It was a van?
It was a van. And it would have, obviously, the classic wooden panel on the side of it that was obviously fake.
The classic wooden trim, which is available in all Teslas, by the way.
It's not available on the outside of the Tesla. This was
not,
on the
no.
outside.
Oh, it was on the outside, just stripped down the side.
This is just a panel van. And if I'm not mistaken, they made a hot version of this. I think it was an HHR S. It didn't have a V8, it had a V6, and that went fast for that kind of thing.
Right.
So the Vector V8. Now this is
W8.
W8. Sorry.
Is that correct? Is that a W8?
Yes.
That's a very.
It's not
rare
an engine though. So Vector was a American car company. They attempted to build one later on that looked like a very long catfish Camaro, but the W8 was a wedge-shaped supercar that was somewhat similar to the Lamborghini. Was it the Diablo or the Countach back then? They made something like 30 of them, and they're exceptionally rare, but it was such a beautiful wedge-shaped car. Have you got another obscure one?
Mosla Consolier?
Mosla... Huh? Wait, can I see that?
Yeah.
Let me see that.
Yeah, let's just keep going.
Was it? I don't know if it... Oh, okay, yes. So the Mosla had it for a while. I think it had a different name as well. This, again, was an American-built sports car that had a very weird cockpit. It was a four-cylinder supercar, and I think the body was made of fiberglass or something ridiculous like that. It is very interesting. And it had like 3 names, I think, at some point for this.
What year was that?
This is, I want to say late 80s, early 90s.
Really?
This thing came out. Same with the Vector W8. It came out about the time of the
These are
wedge-shaped
American
sports cars.
Tramontana.
Where's the rest of it?
I don't know. That's what I've got there.
Let me see that.
Tramontana.
Great, you stumped me.
Tramontana.
I would assume that that's a concept car as well.
A Tramontana.
It sounds very Volkswagen. Is it a Volkswagen? Whoa, it's a Volkswagen.
Is it a Volkswagen?
Who else had things that began with T?
Oh,
Except for Volkswagen.
you've got like the T-Rock. Right then, we've got the 1914 Audi Alpine Victor. These are the cars that look like sausages on biscuit wheels, right? We're going back that far? We've gone back that far.
What an interesting analogy for an old car. Sausage on biscuit wheels.
Yeah, I know, right? But Yeah, this must be one of their very, very first cars, right? Their very, very first cars. Because I've been to their office a long time ago, and I think it's got a model of it in the reception.
Would it have been called Audi back then in 1914? I would have thought it would have been Auto Union.
Yeah, because they sort of were, and then they merged, but they came along a lot later than Mercedes and BMW and everyone else.
Auto
right?
Union was the combination of four manufacturers. That's why the four rings are there on Audi.
Yeah, and that four rings also are a clear indicator on how many zeros they put on the price of everything.
Of Audi.
Yeah,
Well, that's an end to this episode of In the Driver's Seat with Dubizzle. Don't forget to comment down below if you've been in one of the new taxis that Tesla's provided to the RTA. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us on this episode. I'll see if I'll let Fawad back in the studio in a couple of weeks' time. But for you, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.